to the Cold War. Some of you in the audience may well remember the days when there stood at readiness here at Waddington and other bases phalanxes of these magnificent aeroplanes ready to go if the call came during the Cold War to respond to Soviet aggression by launching a nuclear strike. Well, the scrambles that these aircraft made during those days were spectacular to see when they were practiced, and now we get to experience something of that as starting its takeoff roll is the Avro Vulcan E2.
Each of the pilots you find Vulcan bring their own little twist of style to every display.
And there we felt the power of the four Rolls-Royce Bristol Olympus 202 turbojet 16,400 pounds of thrust each. It's amazing to think that just over a decade separated the design, also by Roy Chadwick at Avro, of the Lancaster from this, the Vulcan, which started out in prototype form as the Avro 698, first flown in 1952, and what a stir it caused. Rather like the Canberra we're going to be seeing later and the Hunter we've already seen, the Vulcan demonstrated splendid manoeuvrability. An early appearance at the Farnborough Air Show proved that. In fact, this giant aircraft was as manoeuvrable as many of the fighters of its day. One of its test pilots, Rolly Falk, even rolled a Vulcan at one of the 1950s Farnborough shows. The others being the Handley Page Victor and the Vickers Valiant that carried the British nuclear deterrent for many years during the Cold War, and this year is a particularly poignant one in which to remember that fact, 25 years after the Berlin Wall fell, and then there came the momentous events of 1989 into 1990 that spelt an end of communist regimes in Europe. After the tactical nuclear deterrent was handed over to the Royal Navy in the late 1960s, the Vulcan took on the conventional low-level tactical role. Later, including this aircraft, they were used for roles such as maritime reconnaissance and air-to-air refueling. But then came the Vulcan's unexpected operational swan song, when in 1982 the type was called to arms in a very different theatre from that for which it had been designed, the South Atlantic, the Falklands. And on the 30th of April 1982, the Vulcan you can see parked on the other side of the airfield, serial X-ray Mike 607, took part in one of the most audacious bombing raids in history, attacking the runway of Port Stanley to deny its use to Argentine fast jets. Until the first Gulf War, that raid, codenamed Black Buck 1, was the longest bombing raid in history, a round trip of some 7,760 miles. We heard from the man who flew Vulcan 607 on that sortie, Martin Withers, earlier on. for both him and the crews of the supporting Victor tankers, it was an astonishing feat. Air-to-air refuelings numbered 18 on that sortie alone. But what of XH558 Vulcan we see here, the last flying example? It was the first Vulcan B2 to arrive in R.A.F service in 1960, and it served on a number of squadrons based here at R.A.F Waddington. It later became the final Vulcan on R.A.F charge as part of the Vulcan display flight, and when it was grounded and sold in 1993, many thought its flying career was over, but that was thinking without the efforts of David Walton, who bought XH558 and all its spares, and then Dr. Robert Fleming, who founded the Vulcan to the Sky Trust to put the aircraft back into British skies. The 18-wheeled undercarriage down on this pass. George mentioning Robert Fleming and the Vulcan in the sky. This has been a huge improvement undertaking throughout.
A little earlier on when the Vulcan was surprisingly brought back rapidly into service. Of course, although we don't have Martin in the cockpit today alongside Bill Ramsey, we do have Bill Perrins himself, who spent 3 years on Vulcan, including 4 blackback raids as the airborne reserve, although he never actually made it to the Falklands himself. Now, positioning now, this time the aircraft is cleaned up, and it will come down now for a good view with the Bombay open.
Bombay, able to take some 21,000 pounds of bombs, whether conventional iron bombs or nuclear weapons. So what's it taken to get, as it were, this far and have the aircraft flying for us at Waddington this weekend? Well, about £20 million is the answer to that. 2.7 million came in the form of a grant from the Heritage Lottery Fund. Other than that, it's been the very generous public donations, along with support from the likes of Sir Jack Hayward and Eddie Forrester of Aerobikes, along with a whole host of companies who have themselves contributed. Of the aircraft flying again this and hopefully next season. Over the winter just gone, Cranfield Aerospace carried out research into some necessary wing mods required to allow XH558 to fly on, thereby improving the fatigue life of the wings, and the engineering techniques of Beagle technology made it happen. Other corporate supporters of the aircraft: AD Holdings, Airbus, BAE Systems, Goodrich, Kearsley Airways, Meggitt, Messier Doughty, Rolls-Royce and Serco.
Here now, Bill with a big smile on his face, both Bills I suspect, but we haven't mentioned Bill Ramsey, now a full-time reservist, but with over 5,000 hours, many of them on the Vulcan.
So it costs £2 million a year to run their operation. That equates to some £38,500 every week. Much of that fundraising done by the over 8,000 now members of the Vulcan to the Sky Club. And they're able to see the aircraft at its current home, its very sumptuous home in a hangar at the former R.A.F Finningley, a Vulcan base of long standing, now Robin Hood Airport, Doncaster, Sheffield, to give it its full title. And regular visits can be undertaken to the hangar. Check out the website www.vulcantothesky.org for details of how to book. Undercarriage coming down again. And if, as I'm sure you have, you enjoyed the Vulcan's display, you can make a donation via text from your mobile right now. You just simply need to text the letters and numbers VULC145, VULC 145 to the number 70070. The cost will be £5 plus the standard text charge on your mobile bill, and all of that £5 goes to Vulcan to the Sky and the upkeep in flying condition of the world's sole airworthy Avro Vulcan.
So, as you just please give the crew a good cheer and a wave as they come along the runway for the last time this weekend. You can, of course, go along and talk to the entire team of the Vulcan to the Sky Trust at their little marquee, and a huge amount of interesting artifacts on offer to help support that cause if you don't do the texting routine. So, wonderful opportunity today. Last chance for a photograph of the rolling Vulcan.
The aircraft will be taxiing back up to the left-hand end of the airfield once more. Full credit goes to the crew. We mentioned Bill Ramsey, the captain, and the co-captain Bill Perrins. The third member of the crew, the air electronics operator, was Jonathan Lazari.
Of course, a huge team behind them, keeping the whole thing on the road. Must mention Kevin Taftstone, who's the crew chief and the chief engineer, regards 558 very much of his own baby. He spent 25 years in the Royal Air Force and was here at Waddington for many years.